So we're going to take this hike right now? How wonderful. Okay.
So we're going to go to the left. So
Okay.
it's directing us to Broad Run. So Broad Run is the waterway that goes through this farm.
What a beautiful set of trails. Wow,
Yeah. Isn't this amazing?
I love walking on moss, even though moss is something, you know, it's best to tread lightly on it because it's so critical to the forest floor's ecosystem and to the soil structure. And
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's a wonderful absorbent of runoff water and helps prevent erosion.
Okay.
But I love walking on moss and through, you know, light grasses like this on a trail like this because it just feels almost like it's a magical fairyland or something. Oh, what a sweet little bridge
we might
here.
go through a few spider webs on our
all
way.
right. Oh, goodness.
We're going into the wild, so.
Yes. Over the hill and into the wild. Well, this is definitely the wilds of Virginia. Now, what are these little signs here?
So that's cross country. So there's a cross country course where she's taken, you know, trees and things that have fallen down or they've had to cut down on the property and made jumps, obstacles.
Right.
So people can trailer in and come school their horses over a cross country.
A cross country course.
Yeah.
How wonderful. Well, years ago I was a mounted ranger with the U.S. Forest Service, and the trees that came down across the trails up there in the Rockies were just ones that fell naturally, and sometimes we would have to be riding very quickly. The lead horse of my string was a huge lineback copper dun by the name of Buck, and every now and then I'd get in a little bit of a sticky spot with some of the poachers or something and have to try and outrun them.
Get out. Watch out, there's stickers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this brings back memories of just tearing down the trail as fast as you can. You just had to let the horse have his head and jump whatever was in front of you.
Yeah.
I always thought jumping in a Western saddle was easier. But
Were you in a Western saddle?
oh yes.
Okay. I've never really ridden in a Western saddle. Because again, you know, I started riding. I mean, I took my first riding lesson a little over 11 years ago. Never would I have ever imagined. I thought I'm too old. I'm never going to own a horse. I'm never going to. And never would I have imagined that I'm doing all this.
Well, it's funny how things, you know, life just leads you, and sometimes you end up realizing those dreams of your childhood. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think, you know, one of the things that I always think about is if I had known, if I had seen back then everything, you know, if I had a picture of where I would be now, let's say that I just had this, you know, running this rescue, I would have been completely terrified. There's no way that I would have thought, you know, I couldn't do that. But, you know, and even just everything that it's taken to get here and everything that I've been through in the last 11 years, I would have run away. So, you know, we always think we want to know the future and how things turn out, but it's so much better to let it play out, because really, if you saw it, you'd probably be afraid. Even, I mean, it's wonderful and I wouldn't change it, but back then, you know, if you said, well, you're responsible for this many horses and you're running a whole thing, I would have been like, I can't do that.
So do you think that it just happened at the right time in your life when you were ready and able to face that kind of a challenge?
I do. I mean, well, you know, my kids, again, like my kids were a little older, so I wasn't taking care of babies, because that's a whole different ballgame.
Yes, it is.
And honestly, I lived my life basically doing what was expected of me. I never saw an option other than, well, you go to high school. You know, I went to high school in Fairfax County. I mean, from that, there's no option. You go to college. That's the college track.
Right.
And there was never nothing was ever talked about or thought about. So then I went to college. Then what do you do after that? You get a job, and then you get married, and then you have kids, and then and then you buy a house, and then you buy a bigger house. I was living that life. So I didn't really know. It's almost like I was asleep, sleepwalking through my life.
Oh my goodness.
And then when I got into horses, I was awake. And being awake, I mean, sometimes you just want to go back to sleep because it's easier and more comfortable and whatever.
Right.
But you never want to miss out on being awake.
Right.
I mean, it's like being alive.
Right.
So that's the way that I would compare it. So who knows if I would have taken a different path, but I just think it was, it's just when everything happened, it's like boom, and my whole life changed, and there's almost nothing about my life is the same as it was 11 years ago. Almost nothing.
And what do you think is your biggest takeaway from that?
Well, for me, I guess what I wanted to, and what I talked to, was really important for me to tell my kids is don't live your life based on what everybody else is doing or what you think I want you to do or what society says or
What's expected?
What's expected, yeah. And so it was really like I sat down with them and I'm like, look, this is what I did, and it, did not. Well, it ended up working out for me in the end, but you know, I wanted them to be so open to any possibilities that I never thought about. It's like anything is possible. You have your whole life ahead of you,
right?
And there's no rule. There's no rule. And you can try stuff, and you can screw up, and you can then try something else, and you don't. There's no recipe for life, and I think so many people, and especially young people, I feel so bad because it's like, you go to school and you feel like there's a recipe, like you're supposed to. And there's so much more to life than that. So that's probably my biggest takeaway.
Well, that's a great lesson for all of us. And one of the, we picked up a little rider here. Little spider right there on the selfie stick. How cute is that? Hold on, I'm going to drop him. No, I'm going to drop him off right here on this set of brambles. Join us next time for more of Cherry's story. Thank you.